Dr. Salavark had once been ordinary, unremarkable, just like everyone else. His life was defined by routine: work, home, sleep, repeat. He often described himself as normal boring, until that day. The day that shattered his monotony and set him on a path of chaos and power. Desperation had driven him to take on every possible role he could: magician, waiter, and most importantly, scientist. The latter was his true calling, his passion, but also his downfall. For a while, he was fine, perfectly fine. Until he wasn't. Until that day. In the pursuit of knowledge and innovation, his research led him into the mysteries of radiation, into areas others had dismissed as fully explored. But Mr. Salavark, we already know everything about radiation, they had scoffed, the memory of their laughter etched into his mind. But he had pressed on, compelled by an urge he couldn't explain. It all unraveled when an accident in his lab unleashed radiation into every corner. Alarms blared, red lights flashed, and fellow scientists fled, scrambling for safety. It was chaos. And then there was the artifact. A traveler had brought it to them, a chunk of black obsidian, unervingly smooth, found at the bottom of a desolate canyon near Sable Cross, a small village that bordered the edge of nowhere. The traveler had been on the brink of death, rambling about whispers and shadows. The fact didn't glow, didn't hum, but it exuded an undeniable presence, as though it were alive. They should have left it where it lay, but curiosity won. Salavark's hand reached for it that day, brushing against its surface. That was when the world exploded into chaos, shadows swallowing his vision as a cacophony of whispers and dark shapes overwhelmed his mind. When he awoke, he was no longer in the lab, but in a hospital bed, the sterile white walls a stark contrast to the darkness clawing at his psyche. He was different now. The artifact had done something to him. Unseen demons clawed at his mind, and among the whispers, one voice rose above the rest. "Hello, Salavark," the voice said, smooth and calm. "I am Albert." Salavark, now fractured, argued with this voice in his mind, but Albert remained persistent. Albert became his companion, weaving through his thoughts, guiding him toward a purpose Salavark couldn't yet comprehend. Albert told him of the artifact's true power, and Salavark, desperate to reclaim it, began his escape from the hospital. The road to the lab was hazy, Albert's whispers constant company, as they made their journey. Albert spoke of power, of treasures beyond comprehension, and of the artifact's true potential. By the time Salavark reached the lab, he had already begun to surrender pieces of himself to the voice in his head. The lab was heavily guarded, police stationed outside after the radiation leak. "Run," Albert urged, and Salavark obeyed, charging past the officers as shouts and warnings erupted around him. Inside, he found the artifact in the center of the ruined lab, untouched and waiting for him. He seized it, and the moment he did, he collapsed to the floor, the weight of the artifact pressing down on him. It glowed faintly now, a deep, eerie purple hue, as though awakened by his touch. Albert's voice pulled him from the brink of unconsciousness. "Focus. You are its master," the voice urged. Salavark rose, trembling, as shadows emerged from the corners of the room, taking form under the artifact's influence. Albert guided him, teaching him to summon these demons and wield the artifact's power. Objects around the lab shifted and lifted under his control, the sheer magnitude of his newfound abilities exhilarating and terrifying. When the police stormed the lab, they were met with a force they couldn't comprehend. Salavark unleashed the shadows, sending officers scattering as vehicles overturned and the ground shook beneath their feet. The artifact's glow intensified as Salavark left the lab, leaving chaos in his wake. For the first time in his life, he felt unstoppable. But the artifact's power took its toll.